Starting the speech, POIs, please. POIs will be in the text space. My preferred pronoun is him, she, yeah, whatever sounds, whatever, anyway, anything that you people feel free should call me. I'm a bit tense. Okay, so am I audible? Once more.
Yes, you are.
Starting in three, two, one. Chair. Notice that in this world during this status quo, there are so many people that have been disenfranchised by COVID 19. Even in the aftermath of COVID 19, it's going to take years to rebuild this system. But the question in this debate is, do other systems stay at a stop? We think that employment systems, we think that working, white collar jobs, everything that requires workforce for education, skilled labor, human resource will still be working. That means that we still need to be providing to these systems. And we feel that it's going to be very much of a problem if we are going to provide half-baked students. But secondly, we think in a world where people are disenfranchised from doing specifically what they want, it's very much problematic at the end of the day. Chair, we as team government come to solve this problem with what do we do? This house would encourage freelance schooling. Chair, what do we understand by what freelance schooling is? As the info slide already tells you, info slide freelance schooling is, for example, is a simple description of children staying from home, studying from home, teachers coming to them at their home. Chair, we think about, we're going to give you a case of specific dimensions. Chair, we concede to that very that yes, we children need to be educated in the system, and we think that freelance education like solves that problem specifically. But chair, we want to understand a few things. Chair, we should notice that in this debate, opposition will come and tell you things like specifically in our case that I'm going to do preemptive. Specifically in my case, I'm going to give you a proper introduction. Chair, what does encouraging look like, and what is our model in terms of encouraging? We think the government is going to use specific platforms that they do get access to advocate for this sort of education. Specifically, before we move on further, we should clarify that this debate is not putting a weighing scale on why freelance schooling is better or why freelance schooling is worse than etc., or what should we leave or what should we not take. This debate specifically is supposed to interrogate why we should encourage. Chair, clarification. We think that in this debate specifically already, or in this status quo, we think that the major education systems like online, we think like online schooling, and we think that like physical schooling has already achieved this sort of like self-actualization in terms of like advocacy for this sort of thing. Chair, we think that on that front, we therefore advocate for our sort of like education system, which is freelance schooling, because we think that the other people have like already self-actualized. We think government has already put affirmative action to put girls in school. They have put laws to put children in these specific physical schools. We think all these efforts have already been put, and the numbers of candidates that do national exams keep on increasing. That already shows you that the current system that was there before COVID-19, which has physical schooling, was already effective. But not just that. Janet Museveni, the Minister of Education for Uganda, keeps on advocating on social media platforms for online schooling. But we're going to show you why online schooling is very much problematic in its sense, and why we think that freelance schooling therefore like solves that problem better. Chair, we want you to understand specific few things. We are solving two problems in this debate. One, the disenfranchisement of teachers. Two, the children having insufficient content. Why are these problems specifically that much important? We think that teachers have already studied and like already advocated for being teachers. Therefore, it's very difficult for them to adjust to specific other jobs. Right now, government cannot be giving them sufficient funding every now and then because government has incapability is incapable of providing the necessity for those resources. But most importantly, we think that therefore we need to help these teachers have a sort of way of self-actualization and survive on their own. We don't think you have to stress a government that has an unsustainable debt of $3 billion US dollars to sort of like revitalize the economy and then again pay teachers for every year. We think that there must be a solution that must be taken in. The solution is freelance schooling. Chair, comparative. Why do we think freelance schooling is specifically better than online schooling? We think freelance schooling is particularly better than online schooling because on many modules. Why? We think that online schooling, one, that is not accessible to all because people don't specifically have a smartphone. But two, we think that therefore it's not like online schooling is not like as inclusive as freelance schooling. We think freelance schooling is specifically about a teacher living to a nearby school near your home to come and teach you teach you and teach you specific things. We think that on that front, we therefore have to advocate for that sort of like schooling. First of all, it's like very nice, effective with like reducing on the spread of COVID-19 because it's only the teacher who comes in who is well masked, sanitized, and has having all these things, and we therefore have one person teaching me at home. So therefore, it also reduces the spread on COVID-19. Opposition might come and want to tell you on how the spread of COVID-19 is there, but we can engage that narrative and tell you that there are specific things that are existent, like already vaccines and like more preventive measures and people like being very like careful with their lives or like not fearing to die. We think that therefore those things don't stand. Chair, we think that the problem of children having insufficient content is very much important. Why? Because we tell you that in this debate, we already have to provide to the system. This system needs specific people who are quality. When we provide to the system of people who have half-baked knowledge and have not completed their economic syllabuses or have not completed their accounting, like the tools the knowledge they need and material to need to get to know to learn more things about accounting, etc. We think that these things are very much important because when you upgrade to the system, you become more half-baked because you don't have the specific and requirement knowledge we have. We think that all teachers who qualify for going teaching are always qualified and certified to have the specific knowledge that they need to invest in you. That means that even though the teacher is in very deep down in the village, they qualify to be a teacher because they sat tests, they passed interviews. So that already shows you that we believe that any teacher, specifically at this point, as long as you are a teacher, you're certified to provide content to the children. We don't care really if the content is like really 100% perfection like at Cambridge. We think that as long as the children get that content, we think that therefore that content will be good. Because therefore when they return to the actual system, which is the physical schooling, which has revitalized, therefore there will be simply the burden of like just teaching a few things here and there. We think it's therefore just more burdensome to the schools currently to provide that sort of like help to specific people. The second thing is like loss of like teachers' jobs. You think that specific teachers have already lost their jobs because at the end of the day, yes,
8 million of the 15 million.
ask. Oh God. Moving on. So, Chair, we want to tell you specific things. Like, what do we tell you? Our model, like I've already told, is about advertising. We think that having half-baked students is going to be very harmful. We think that freelance schooling specifically then. Or people talk about issues of funding. We think these are bogus because we think that people come out from abroad and give us specific help. Normally, in most cases, they do not even need to go through the government. We think that they have their own accountability mechanisms that don't really entail with the government. But in the best case world, we think that even on their side where they think funding is a problem, we think funding can come from anywhere. Inclusivity. We think that this is inclusive to everyone because there are so many schools around the spectrum, even in a 1 kilometer radius. And these schools normally have teachers. We think that therefore that is something that we need like more important. Again, we think that online schooling, like I've already given you a comparative, is far less like better, far worse than this sort of schooling. But then we think that therefore it's most important for children to get access to education, like I've already told you. We think that increases on the teachers. Rian is going to tell you more of the utility. My job was to set up the debate and show you that there are problems in the status quo, which I've already showed you. Teachers have no jobs, children have half-baked students, and the system currently, they cannot tell us anything because this motion already assumes COVID-19 and the aftermath, where the system is going to be very hectic to like fix. So in the last 5 seconds, I would like to summarize this by telling you that at the end of the day, we show you the problems in the status quo and show you why we need to like solve this sort of problem. We need to encourage. Remember, these things are already there, but we're not saying they should go away. We are encouraging. Chair, very proud to be PM. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that speech, Prime Minister. Before I get to the level position, I'd like to inquire from Abigail if someone could help me with a timer, because I just recognized that there was no timer running in the chat space.
Sure, no problem.
Abigail, you can find the timer?
Yeah, I'll set the timer immediately the speakers start.
Okay, so we may now proceed with the leader of opposition.
Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen in the August House and our dear adjudicators, I would love to first bring to the point that our government is actually bringing us something we do not understand well. The fact now that we are fighting about, we are fighting to make sure that our students, our children study in a condition of COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, the government does not clearly tell us, sincerely speaking, since it is emphasizing going to homes so that they can teach, it is not telling us how it will solve the problem of COVID-19, because this is the biggest problem we have right now as our children are stuck at home. The biggest problem is COVID-19, and it is not telling us how it is going to avoid that problem by the teachers going back to schools. In fact, going back to the children. In fact, it would actually increase the problem more. Ladies and gentlemen, the biggest problem of government now that it is presenting is that the teachers are defranchised. I don't actually know why you are thinking so much of the lives of the few teachers and forgetting the lives of the many students who are suffering. The people who will die instead of the teachers who you claim are defranchised. I don't really think that is a big thing to weigh. We know, yes, they are defranchised, but I don't really see a big point count in that. Ladies and gentlemen, the government really clearly told us that um, the students are half baked when they are at home, and when they study on physically, and you really wonder how the government is going to solve problems of making them get sufficient content when the teachers go there. The government actually raises a very big problem. We ask ourselves where it is going to get that number of teachers. According to research, the Ministry of Education currently told us that we have 15 school-going students in the country, 15 million school-going children in the country, and 8 million of them are kindergarten. They are still young. That actually means that this is a very big number compared to the few teachers who teach primary schools, and those teachers are about 1,000 in number. Can you imagine now, if the government has 1,000 teachers going to teach 8 million students and moving from home to home, the government has not clearly told us how it is going children, encourage standard operating procedures,
Thank
and all
you.
that will help us to do what the government has said to make sure that we come back to physical
Hi.
schooling, which is very effective. I request you, ladies and gentlemen, to be so
Hello,
mindful about the mind.
done. Yeah, thank you so much for that speech. For other speakers going forward, kindly do well to check in the chat space when you're speaking, or when I interrupt, then you know your time is overly done. Yeah, and we don't listen to anything that you say beyond the cap of that time. Yeah, so that said, I welcome the Deputy Prime Minister to extend the opening government's case.
And you're back, but you need to what will be the extension.
Deputy Prime Minister, are you there? DPM, can someone else hear me, or am I not audible?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, sure. Let me just have some few seconds to have my papers together, then I would start. Okay, awesome. So, I think for any sort of POIs, please indicate in the text space. I'll be keeping an eye there. And then, definitely I'll be following closely. So, I think let me just set my timer. Is it 7 minutes? Yeah, how much time do I have?
Yes, you have 7 minutes. If you've been following the chat space, yeah, the same minutes that the other members have been having.
Awesome. Okay, so
Deputy Prime
I'm
Minister,
set 2, 1. So this house would encourage freelance schooling, right? So from DPM, I'll give you 3 extensive levels of analysis. They will work as an extension, but also substantive of what actually OG has to say. Firstly, I will tell you specifically why OO gets toppled in LO speech. Secondly, the marginal utility for stakeholders that exist within this kind of world. Thirdly, and most importantly, why we think at a level of all failed means that have been tried before, only freelance schooling would actually try to remedy the problem. So far, things progress world is an idea that to have people study in a condition of dignity. But secondly, or as is not all, there's policy of vaccination of kindergarten children, and then of course encouraging standard operating procedures, right? So panel, my rebuttals will be ingrained in my case. So what do we stand for primarily as means of our system, right? So on that ground, we think that the policy, of course, opposition tries to front one that concerns sort of vaccination, right, of kindergarten children. We think that this is scope that actually would take such quite a long period of time. But also, we don't think that the likelihood of what this policy will do is create some sort of resentment within society. We've seen notions where whereby government, governments have come up to wait for this particular vaccine, of course, right from Germany. That is the case within Uganda. But then what happens is that there is some lot of disallowment right from society because they demand that education system keeps moving. We then think that at this particular point, when governments are faced with this particular sort of mounting pressures, then they're obliged to act and then find a solution that would try to solve these particular problems. But what do we tell you in my PM speech? What we specifically tell you from our world is the idea that human beings in and of themselves are actually rational beings, that they have the ability to conceive to problems that exist within status quo, and therefore have some sort of self-transcendence that happens within them, and therefore able to devise solutions to these particular problems. So what we tell you is that even teachers in and of themselves fear to die. So they would actually observe any sort of standard operating procedures for order to have actually safeguard against COVID-19, even in the business. But secondly, we question on the time of vaccination, like how long is it going to take for this vaccine to actually take in place? Let's look at how way back, what time actually COVID-19 broke onto the global, the global village. It has actually taken a scope of, much more time than actually vaccination has actually, been actually put in place. But also secondly, we tell you the idea that actually availability of schools and within the proximity of the students actually exists within the best sense, right? But the problems we interrogate in this world is firstly, one on the loss of jobs that exist right from teachers. Secondly, the insufficiency that is likely to cause actually harm within future. What we tell you on our world is the likelihood of half-baked actually students coming out of systems. What then we have is the notion of actually online studies actually taking part. We don't think that these particular notions are sorry, I'll take you in a minute. We don't think that these particular notions are actually problematic because why one, we think that there is likelihood for us to have some sort of resentment in as far as services of these professional beings actually perform at a stage whereby we have students actually studying within particular 1 month and then they're actually transiting to the next course of level. We didn't think that they did not get what is actually sufficient enough to solve this particular problem. And these are the two problems that we center on as government world. But what we tell you also in our world is the idea that then when disenfranchisement actually does exist, or when there is some loss of jobs and there is there is cut loss of so many jobs within status quo, we then think that state is actually obliged to actually try to provide any sort of remedy to these particular problems. At a stance whereby most companies or schools have been locked down, this particular segment of people, yes. What we tell you is that when we encourage freelancing, schooling, it is not, it is in not in any sense actually a coercive sort of measure. It is non-coercive. At the stance where people try to decide when to do these particular positions, we then think that that is very important in trying to justify why then this particular thing is important. But also, we think that advertisement is the foremost stance in actually trying to push this agenda, right? At the stance that we make it renowned to most individuals that these are satisfied teachers and then teachers who are able to deliver this particular sort of services within this particular people. We think that this actually stands to be a benefit. So secondly, level of analysis on why then we think there is much marginal utility from our world. We don't think that teachers are actually incorporated or given capacitation to actually live cooperatively within society, but also have some sort of benefit within society because government has invariably not been able to provide such funds they need within this particular periods of crisis. But also we think that when advertisement is actually fronted, this particular key notion that government that government tries to front is one that people will take interest in, but also would adapt steadily. But also, we don't think that there is better improvement of our education system at a stance whereby we have these particular individuals actually taking in much more content because they have more physical interactions within these teachers. We don't think that COVID-19 does not actually escalate in this particular sense, right? Because in the best sense, it is an idea whereby there are minimum numbers regulated and therefore serve to actually mitigate the spread of COVID-19 that actually follows vast number of, because it's actually door-to-door step of actually this particular position. But also, we don't think that actually state in and of itself will become popular because in this particular position, it is when now society will try to perceive, its own state as one that cares about them, one that looks at them and supports them in this particular periods of crisis. But also, we think that that kind of resentment,
Yeah.
actually, yes, I'll take you.
Do you mean that movement of unvaccinated teachers from one home to another is different from gathering unvaccinated children?
Exactly. That is what we're telling you in our world. We don't think that the numbers are now minimum, right? Looking at school settings are willis within this particular sort of positions. We don't think that government has actually taken up measures to actually identify the COVID-19 patients, and these people have actually been actually removed from society settings, particularly. What we think that we think that there is better improvement of our education system at a stance whereby we have these particular government has actually effectively worked on. So we think that in that our so then we think that if this particular sort of level, we didn't think that this freelancing is actually the solution. So on a cooperative, we don't think that our policy that we front of encouraging this sort of freelancing schooling as far as advertisement is concerned is one that redresses the problems of loss of jobs, but also the insufficient content that actually we get from this particular student, but also the likelihood of producing more satisfied professions within the near future, and of course which will benefit state largely. But what we failed to get from opposition while is firstly how vaccination in and of itself is actually going to try and create a leeway on the job that yes. Secondly, they don't definitely tell us the exact extent to which this kind of insufficiency of student content and all that have actually been failed or are going to be tried in their particular sort of respect. With that, we think we win from government wall. Thank you.
Thank you, DPM, for that speech. I will welcome the deputy level opposition to proceed with the opening opposition's case.
Yes, anyone to confirm that you're hearing me?
Yes, you're very audible.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, once again in the August House, so delighted. We are this afternoon discussing something very important, that this house would encourage freelance learning. But ladies and gentlemen, before I go any further, let me speak something on what the DPM was speaking actually. DPM was speaking something on advertisement of teachers. Now, he never clear to us how this advertisement can be able to reach even the rural communities. Now, this advertisement can be accessed by people in the urban settings, but those who are in the villages, those who are in deep villages have no access to this thing. So DPM, take note. And you said that our idea of vaccination would take a long time. But let me tell you, with how our system is coordinating, we are using the Ministry of Health, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of ICT, as the leader of opposition has said, to quicken all these processes. So I don't understand how lengthy you are speaking. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't see the point where the DPM was standing. And again, you spoke something on the insufficiency of the content to be delivered. But I want to tell you that the content that these students will be able to get when they are learning later online or using e-learning platform is far more than what when they are going to physical. A case in point, compare a textbook for physical lesson and an internet or using a search engine, for example, Google. Compare the two. Who made who? I see that in e-learning or in that online context or digital context, there is more content than even the physical one. So the DPM, I see your standpoint there. So, ladies and gentlemen, the government, the opening government is coming on the stage, but they are not trying to give us the accurate policy. They're not trying to give us the work on how they can achieve whatsoever they are speaking about. With the policy of vaccinating all these children in the kindergarten, so they are sent back to school. So vaccination is one of our key issues in this debate. We are seeing that when children are vaccinated, it gives them that resistance to the virus. So now we say that how can we vaccinate? How can the extensive vaccination go on? I will take you in 2 minutes. How can we vaccinate? We say that we can coordinate with the Ministry of Health. We can coordinate with the Ministry of Education. We can coordinate with the Ministry of ICT actually to make sure that this process are commenced rightly. Now, how can the Ministry of I'm saying I'll take in 2 minutes. So how can the Ministry of Health impact this vaccination? By sending more manpower, more doctors, more nurses, more pharmacists in the health institution, so that this vaccination is boosted amicably. So Now, how can the Ministry of Education help us in this mass mobilization of their teaching staff to go for this vaccination? So the students go back to school for physical learning. Now, as we are in this roadmap for vaccination, we are seeing the opening of this thing in a staggered manner. Opening in a staggered manner in the sense that people will go to school in shifts. Now, as they go in shifts, they cannot just stay back at home there doing nothing. We are opting for an e-learning so that these children, when they are still at home, as we are working on mass vaccination, they are learning from home. We are being able to use television now. How can we acquire all these things we are speaking about? We can use the Ministry of Finance to help us in the acquiring of all these tools, of all these things we are speaking about. So the Ministry of Finance will help us in the purchase of this thing. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are saying as vaccination will take place actually. We are seeing the putting up of more infrastructures in schools now. When these infrastructures are put when more classrooms are built, more buildings are put in place. You'll find that the issue of congregation in one place by pupils will decrease. Now, more classrooms are constructed. More things are at the level and at the total level will help. I
Okay,
get your
both our
POI.
cases are very good. Actually, yours is very good. But the problem with your case is that you don't show us how you're losing with these systems. We literally delivered all this in PM speech about how you like waste your time, etc., and how people are going to lose a lot in the time you waste to rebuild, to implement, to do all these shenanigans that you're talking about.
And gentlemen, one of the things we are out of position actually is to make sure that also the public is sensitized on how this vaccination exercise can go on. Because in the first place, sensitization must first take place before vaccination. So, and who can help us in this vaccination? We can use the local council 1, local council 2, at parish level, local council 3, at sub-county, and LC5 to help us in the mobilization of this population of the children in the community, so that they know, they have that knowledge of vaccination actually. So we are seeing that sensitization of the public is very, very important. And who can help us in this? We can use the local council. And now you find that this local, they have to be given something for their what as the help in the exercise. So the Ministry of Health will give us the funds to us to help in this process. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't see the reason as to why the opening government come in and deceive the whole August House. That this thing cannot take place. We are seeing that when even students are going back to school, there is sufficiency in knowledge as opposed to what they have back. So I see no sense here. So I am saying that doing all these things will vaccinating these children will help a lot. Now, what else can we do actually? We are saying of increasing funding to health and education institutions. When the funding is increased, actually, so, ladies and gentlemen, you find that when funding is increased to the hospitals, when funding is increased to the schools, it will help in the running of the vaccination exercise at various points. So, now, I don't see the point. I don't see why the opening government could come and stand in this podium to deceive the whole house that this freelance learning, that this freelance learning will be encouraged. But in other words, we are saying we are strongly opposing this idea and this thing of freelance learning with the policy of vaccinating. And as we have time for vaccination, the opening inclusive of financial. With all this, I am proud to oppose the motion.
Thank you, Deputy. of the opening half, would like to welcome the member of government open the closing half.
Good afternoon. Please confirm you can.
Hello, do I have a member of government here?
Yes, I am here. Please confirm you can hear me clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you very much. So can I start?
Excuse me?
Can I start?
Yes, Emmanuel, I can hear you, but I'd like to confirm, are you the member of government? Because you were not in the room and we have gotten a swing.
Yes, I'm the member of government. I'm doing with Tanaka.
I think that's a mistake.
It's a swing team.
Emmanuel,
Yes,
is that not a mistake?
that's what I was told. That we're in room 2 and we are closing government. Me and
Okay.
Eh?
Emmanuel and Tanaka are the swing team you asked for.
Is Emmanuel not a swing team?
Yeah,
Yes,
they're
he is
swing.
a swing team, they're bench team.
Yes, because
Excuse
we are
me,
around.
excuse me, members.
Because we are around and we are being following.
Closing government room. Closing government room 2 is Gulu University 1, and we are around.
So we are around.
Hello, Dickens, you're not audible, and you can please try to reconnect. I'd like to hear from Emmanuel. Emmanuel, are you the swing team that was sent in this room?
Then,
I beg your pardon. Sir. Please come again.
tingin pa Aida.
Dickens, please kindly unmute. Kindly mute your microphone. Emmanuel, I'd like to know, are you the swing team that was sent to this room?
Yes, we were sent in this room. We're in the swing teams, myself and Shibai.
Okay, then you may proceed, please. Member of government.
Thank you very much. Sir. I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1.
Let me share. Is it not a mistake?
No, please. Anyone, please, all of you unmute your microphones. Please kindly mute your microphones. Hello. Kindly mute your
Eddie guy.
microphones.
But
There is
The Gulu
there
team
is
is
no
a violent.
mistake. We asked. There is no mistake. Hello. Am I audible? Can all of you hear me?
You are.
yes, you're audible.
Okay. Thank you so much. At the start of the round was supposed to start at 2 something. We waited for confirmation the closing government. They were supposed to be in this room. There was no any response to that. So we called in for a swing team. Requested for a swing team. And I was told there was a swing team sent in whether Emmanuel, where they confirmed that is that clear?
But closing
Hello?
government confirmed space earlier runner too. We have confirmed earlier in the text space.
Closing government, did you make any introductions when we were making introductions confirming teams here?
Yes, in the text
If you're in a
space.
room.
We made in the text space.
Where is the text space? Because I called you to unmute and speak. A speaker from one of the sides.
We wrote in the text space.
Yeah, they did.
But you remember me calling you to unmute and speak for your side.
Yeah.
So what happened? What was wrong with that?
They wrote in the text space.
I'm not seeing in the text space. You know where I see OG that confirmed the teams. Then I see somewhere a POI. God. Okay, yeah, I've seen you only where you're writing the names. So hello, Emmanuel.
Yes, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Yeah, so Emmanuel, since closing government is here, would you be comfortable letting them proceed?
Hello, sir. Could you please come again?
Hello.
Breaking at the end.
Yeah, since the closing government was supposed to be. Hello.
Hello. Now I can hear you, but you were breaking heavily. I couldn't hear you.
How about now? Am I very audible?
Yeah, audible.
Yeah, I'm asking since the closing government is here, the real closing government, would you be comfortable letting them proceed?
Sure.
Okay, then I'm going to accept. It's going forward. That you listen to the rules carefully. Even when we call in the swing, we also value their time. It's unfair that we consider you even when you're in the tab. So going forward, it's important that if the rules are, please unmute and introduce yourself. Otherwise, proceed now from Gulu University. Hello, Gulu University. Are you on? Hello?
Je, ac-